Good morning. It's good to be here. My name is Dustin. I'm one of the pastors here, and I just want to welcome you here. If you have your Bibles, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 13. We'll be around in 1 John, but everything will be on the screen. Before I get started, I just want to thank everyone who's been praying for my thumb. I got the good old, it was funny. I was in the ER, and I was like, well, let's go see Don while he's in the ER, And it was just, I severed some tendons, and my cast is off, and I'm kind of bending. I got to play guitar for the first time this week, so I'm thankful. But I know that many of you have been praying, and I know many of you have come to me and says, hey, how are you doing? And that means so much to me. Just letting you know, thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you so much for just, praying for things, because prayer helps, doesn't it, sometimes? Well, today, I get to wrap up our series on This Is Us. And we've been talking about different values that we hope are a part of Santa Rosa Christian Church, of who we are. And to be honest with you, it's kind of difficult to talk about a This Is Us series, because it's one thing to talk about who you are. It's another thing to actually live out who you are, right? I mean, we've all struggled with that sometimes. And we've all known people who have said one thing, but really their life is living another. And sometimes it's you say a good thing about yourself, and really you're living another, or you say a bad thing about yourself. It could go the same way. We all know people who they're like, yeah, I'm a strong person, but we know they're hurting, right? We know they're hurting on the inside. They're trying to put on a good face, but we know deep down they're really hurting. We also know some people who they believe that maybe they're ugly and they're not loved, and they're like so beautiful. It just shines out of them. They don't even know it. And we've all kind of seen that mismatch. And so when we start talking about the church and we talk about, is this us? Or this is us, but the question is this us? And I believe, for me, I struggle with this. It's like, I want this to be us. I believe this is who we can be. I believe these values are who we're trying to be. And by the grace of God, hopefully someday He's continually, every day He's making us into a new creation. But then my mind is kind of blown. Jean, when she kicked off the series earlier on this month, she read a verse out of Ephesians 2, verse 10. And this is what it says: "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things that He has planned for us long ago." I think it's really interesting that it doesn't say we are becoming God's masterpiece. We already are. Like in God's eyes, we already are. And I think about these values that we've been talking about. From God's perspective, they're not something that we're becoming. We already are. The question is do we believe it? Do we really believe what we've been talking about? And so the very first week, Jean talked about how we are the temple. And she says each of our bodies are made so that God could live inside them. But are we living that out? Do we believe that? Do we believe God is living inside of us? And then Forrest shared in week 2 that we are worshipers. Everything we do in our bodies is an act of worship. It's not just Sunday morning for worship. It's Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Everything you do, it's not just singing a song. It's how you speak to other people. It's how you live. It's how you breathe even can be an act of worship. And then last week, Barney talked about how we are in community. We're not called to live alone. We're called to live together. We're called to do life with one another. This is us. This is who we are supposed to be. Now the question is this us for real? Like to be real, sometimes I'm not that. Sometimes I'm a temple to myself. And I don't let God live inside different areas in my life. And I say, no, this is Dustin's temple, not your temple, God. And this is what Dustin wants to do. And then when it comes to worshiping, sometimes I like to worship myself. I like to worship what I want to do. I want to sing my praises. I want to talk about how good I am, not about how good God is. Sometimes I'm a worshiper of myself. And then when it comes to community, sometimes I don't want to listen to other people's voice. I just want to listen to my voice. Because those other voices, I don't know if I want to hear what they have to say. And I don't want to be in community. I want to be in community with myself. Because at least I can take care of myself. So the question is what is us for real? Today, I want to talk about a fourth element, is we are on a mission. Sometimes our life, our purpose of life, is on a mission that's all about ourselves as well, isn't it? I like to go where I want to go. I want to eat where I want to eat. I like to hang out with the people that I want to hang out with, right? I like to do the things that I want to do. I don't want to do those things. No, whatever. What are those other things? I'm on a mission to myself sometimes. And sadly, we do the same thing as a church. Sometimes we confuse the mission of the church with a mission of what do we want to do, right? I'm sure maybe you've said these things, maybe you've heard these things. I know I've said these things at times in my life. Sometimes it's like, hey, I only like that worship style of music. Or, that church is too small. That church is too big. That church is what? Just right. Right. We do that. And we have all those subjective, what is it? Oh, I don't like the way they're teaching. You know, they're not teaching the Bible the way I want to be taught the Bible. Or they're not using the right Bible, translation. Or whatever the delivery is just not, that guy, he looks a little weird, I mean, there's all those things, right? Or what are they talking about? They're talking about serving in church? No, I don't want to serve. I just want to come to church, get my hour done, and go and do what I want to do. I don't want to spend another hour a month, really, an hour a month to help out in children's ministry? How hard is that, really? Can you spare an hour a month? No, I don't want to do that because it's about me. Give? Are you kidding me? I barely have enough money for myself. I mean, you see a common occurrence what's going on here? It's all about self. It's all about selfishness. And sadly, I admit, I am selfish. And these are attitudes that I've had within my life, and I'm struggling with this because it's like, no, we're supposed to be on a mission, and it's not about self. It's not about selfishness. I mean, if we were to sit down and we were to go to movies today, and I were to take you to a movie starring Dustin, and this movie was all about me, and I would talk in the movie about how good I am, and how great I am, and how good I look, and then everything I would do, forget about other people. It's all about me, all about me. How many guys would love that movie? Maybe you'd like it if I died a horrible, gruesome death at the end, right? But most of the time, we don't like hanging out with selfish people. We don't like being around selfish people. No one wants to be around the person that only cares about themselves. And nobody wants to go to church that only thinks about themselves either, right? We don't want to be around those kind of people. I don't think that living a mission that's all about self and what I want and get what I want, I don't think that's how God created us to be. And I don't think Jesus came down to this world so he could create a church that only cares about themselves and only does what they want to do either. And so what is our mission? And I think Jesus had to come down here to show us what our mission was. And so when Jesus came down, you notice, the story is God on his throne in heaven or where, up there. And he's got his splendor. He's got everything going right. Everything's right in heaven. And he decides to come down here. And he sets aside his power and he decides to put on these clothes that look like a human. And he subjects himself to getting sick. He subjects himself to people not treating him well. And he comes down here, and what does he do? He starts loving people. He goes to these people who are ugly and sick and addicted and sinful and selfish. And he comes down there and he puts his arms around them and he touches them. And he holds them, and he heals them. And there was this picture of Jesus loving. That was his mission here. Eventually, he comes down, and even while everyone's ridiculing him, he spreads his arm and he dies. For them. For us. Because God is love. And then he raises from the dead, which is pretty cool. And then just before he leaves, he goes, go tell everybody about my love. He says, if you want to be a follower, if you want to be a follower of me, of Jesus, he says, every person, no matter who you are, I have a mission for you. And it's a big deal. This is it. Ready? I want you to love other people. I want to show your love to other people. Just as I have loved you, love others. That's your mission. That's your goal. One of Jesus' closest followers, John, wrote about it in 1 John chapter 4. He says, God showed how much he loved us by sending his one and only Son to this world, so that we may have eternal life through him. This is real love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as a sacrifice to take away our sins. He continues, he says, dear friends, since God loved us that much, we surely ought to love each other. No one has ever seen God, but if we love each other, God lives in us and his love is brought to full expression in us. See, it's like, look, yeah. A lot of people would say, I've never seen God, right? I've never seen him like right now with my own retinas, eyes, right? But he says this, when we love others, you see God. We show other people God through our love. So here's a question for you. How are you doing with that? How are you doing with loving God? Do you love everyone? Now this is the church answer. Yes, of course I'm in church. We love everyone here, right? But the truth of the matter is, okay, do we love everyone? And it's one thing, now here's where John goes even crazier. In chapter 3, he says this, dear children, let us not merely say we love each other, but let us show the truth by our actions. Ooh. Because now we got to get past the Sunday school answer. Yeah, we love everybody. Oh, are you really living that out? Our actions will show that we belong to the truth, so we will be confident when we stand before God. Even if we feel guilty, God is greater than our feelings, and he knows everything. You see, it's not about just saying that we love one another. It's not about saying this is us, but it's about actually living it out. It's about doing it. It's about living this out. It becomes personal, and that's where it gets tricky for me. When you talk about loving others, real quick, I want to just share a little bit about all my life. I've lived a life where I've tried to get love through doing stuff. All my life, I've tried to just get love through performing, by being good at things. I mean, maybe you could relate, I don't know, but like maybe when you're at home, like when I was at home, I wanted to make sure I did the right thing so my parents would love me. There's a little dynamic of that. But as I got older, then I went into school, and basketball was popular in my small town, and I wanted to be a good athlete. I wanted to play sports well so people would like me. They'd cheer me on, and they'd like me. The problem was I was a little small compared to everyone else, and I just couldn't keep up. And it was like, okay, so let's work in school. I'm pretty smart. Let me get good grades, and let me do that, and maybe people will love me. And then you get older, what happens? Then it's work, right? Let me do a good job so my employees and my boss will love me, will care for me, will like me. How about being a pastor? Well, let me just do really well at playing guitar, and then people will like me. Or maybe let me lead worship a little bit. Or maybe let me try to preach really well. I want to work really hard. So people will go, Dustin, you're a good preacher. I like you. And there's this story that I would tell myself, if I'm just good enough, then people will like me. People will love me. I don't know if you could relate. But I have a feeling that many of us kind of live life doing that. Putting on the fake face, and it's a whole lot of work. Let me tell you. You're trying to put on that good face and making sure you look good in front of people is a lot of work. And most of the time it's scary because if I mess up, someone will be upset and not love me. If I don't use the right translation, if I don't talk this way about this, or I don't preach enough about that, or, all those things. And the problem is what's really frustrating is there are some people, no matter how good you perform, they just don't like you. Have you ever seen the Muppets? You know these guys? These old guys, I never even knew their names. I guess their name's Statler and Waldorf. But these are the guys that make fun of everyone. And they're hilarious, aren't they? And they just, no, but it doesn't matter what. Kermit the Frog, man, he's a good frog. He's a good guy. He just loves everyone. He's trying to do his best. I mean, he's a talking frog. That's a big deal. And what do? They just make fun of Kermit the whole time, right? And there are people in this world that no matter what you do, you could be a talking frog and they still won't like you, right? And it's like they want to suck the joy out of you, and it's troubling. But there are people like that, and the thing is, what I'm continually trying to remind myself of this, because I fall into I want to please those guys. They don't like me, and I'm going to try to do something for them. And really, there's nothing I can do. They're just unhappy men, grumpy old men, right? It's really funny until they start making fun of you, right? Right? But the thing is what? The thing is with love is something that you cannot buy. You cannot sell. You cannot earn love. You can't pay for it. You can't make someone choose to love you. I cannot put my family up here and say, look, you need to kiss me and tell me you love me. And then they actually truly do it. They may kiss me, my wife, and then my son and my daughter. They may kiss me. They may actually say, I love you, Dustin, right? But I cannot make them do that. Love is something that's a gift. It's something that is given out of free choice. And it's not about performance, because all my life I've tried to earn love through performance. I've tried to earn love. And what's crazy is I have this crazy dynamic of I try to earn people's love, but I also have this hidden secret agenda or rule book in my head is I have other people in my life that have to earn, they have to do something to earn my love. Does that make sense? And there's this transaction thing going on that's a messed up thing in our world and in my own life that it's okay, I'm supposed to love other people, but how many other people are trying to do the same way that I would try to do it, is try to earn our way through it and try to perform and try to look good and all this. And if you do this for me, then I will love you. And how many people are holding back their own love because they're trying to wait for, okay, if you pass my test, then I'll love you. Because I do that. I don't want to do that, but there's times that I do that. Now, is that really love? No, it's not love at all. It's some sort of transactional thing that our world has tried to, it's a facade of love. It's not the real thing. See, real love is a gift. And in 1 Corinthians, it's also called the love chapter, And if you've been to any wedding, you've probably heard these verses, but let me read some of them again. 1 Corinthians 13 says, if I could speak in the languages of earth, all the languages of earth, and of angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it, but if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. See, I think about my own life and I think, how many times have I tried to do things for others? and I've done things, and I looked good, and it went off well, but there was no love. And I was just a noisy noisemaker. Another thing, it's easy for me to love some people, right? It's easier for all of us to love some people, but there's those other ones, right? Like the Raider fans. Or, no, yeah, exactly. Exactly. See, you just voted me off the island. I'm unloved. No. I always do that because some of my best friends are Raider fans. I just love to tease them all the time. But there are some people that it's a little bit more difficult to love, aren't they? Those people that just, I have this unwritten rule in my head. If I don't like that person, I don't have to love them. If they're mean to me, I don't have to love them. I'll say I love them. That's the church world, right? But do I really have to? Well, Jesus kind of talks about this in Luke chapter 6. Let me read it for you. If you love only those who love you, why should you get credit for that? Even sinners love those who love them. You get that, right? It's easy to love someone who loves you. And if you do good only for those who do good to you, why should you get credit? Even sinners do as much. It's easy to tip a waitress that is really nice to you and gives you a lot of stuff, right? But the other way around, if they ignore you, I don't know. How about this one? And if you lend money to those who can repay you, why should you give credit? Even sinners lend money to others for a full return. That one's really tough for me because in my head, a lot of times I think I'm being a good steward if I don't lend to that person because I know I'm not going to get it back. Right? It's like who would do that? That's a stupid move. That's just what the world says. Would you give to someone who you know is going to just throw it away? It's hard. It's hard to do that. Because Jesus, it's like, wait, I'm supposed to love that person that is not being nice to me. They get on my nerves. They're so annoying. They don't agree with my political viewpoint. They voted for Nader, right? Nader, or they don't agree with my own lifestyle. Or they don't love me. They're just mean people. Why should I love them? And Jesus continues, as he does, and he just turns the heat up a little bit more, just like he does. He says this, love your enemies. Do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward in heaven will be very great. And you will truly be acting as children of the Most High. For he is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. See, I don't like it when people don't say thank you if you do something for them. That's in my head. Oh, they're ungrateful, I'm not going to give to them again. Right? Anybody do that? Or is it just me, the pastor, right? Hopefully this is us, right? At least I find it very difficult. You must be compassionate just as your heavenly Father, or just as your Father is compassionate. Man, this is tough. Why is it that my love runs out? There's a limit to my love. After a while, it's okay, I'm done. I've been trying to give to them, and they just don't want it, and they're being a jerk to me, and I've got better things to do. I've done that. Why is it I do that, and then God says, let's keep going. I'm going to keep loving them. They're being unthankful, they're being wicked, they're being ungrateful, and I'm going to keep loving them. They're spitting on me, they're mocking on me while I'm up on the cross, and I say, God, forgive them. What in the world? How in the world? Well, I think John, in 1 John, talks about this. This is the reason. 1 John 4. He says, dear friends, let us continue to love one another, for love comes from Dustin. No. Love comes from God. And anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God, but anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God is love. You see, my love will always run out. Dustin's love will always run out. I will get impatient, and when I rely upon my love, it becomes transactional. It becomes, I will do something for you, so you love me, and you do something for me, so I love you. And God says, no, this is a gift. And I'm full of love. And His love will never run out. It's like He's the gas in the car. Except it just keeps flowing in, and and it never goes away. But I like to try to run my car without gas. It's like, oh, no, I'll do it. If I just shine my car and I look really good, and it looks like a really cool car, everyone will love me. But what does a car with no gas do? It goes nowhere. And that's the same thing. The reason why I can't love is because I'm not letting God's love flow into me and overflow to others. And that's what we're called to do. We're called to just simply love. Not because they did anything. Not because someone else did something for you. It's just because God loves you. And it's so full and it's just overflowing. And what's crazy is when I love with God's love, I can go a lot further than I used to. Stuff in my tank, which I thought were in my tank, all of a sudden His love is overflowing, and it becomes easier to love those people that I wouldn't love those people yesterday, but for some reason, God's letting me love them. It's weird, but it's God. So let's get practical. Let's not just talk about this, but let's live it out. How are you? Let's see, let me share with you one thing that I'm working on, and maybe it'll help you. Maybe it'll be something that you want to work on or not, but here's one simple practical idea. I'm trying to work on learning and remembering names of people in my life that I see on a regular basis. How many of you would consider yourself not a name person? Me too. I mean, I don't think any of us are, because we like to hear our own name, right? I mean, studies have shown that when you hear someone say your name, you actually, unless it's like, Dustin, then it's like, no, I don't want to hear my name then. But it's when we hear about ourselves, when we hear our name. And I'm like, okay, for me, I've kind of been lazy in this. Because really, it just takes a little bit of work to remember people's names. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? If I can show a little bit of love by remembering a few more names and sticking it into my thick head, at least I'm showing a little bit more love. And then if I forget their name, I mean, really, I could just say, hey, please forgive me. Your name escapes me. What is it again? And then just try to remember, right? Do you know the names of the people who live next to your home? This one's tough. But if God's calling us to love our neighbor at times, maybe it can start by remembering their name. Here's a little thing. I would encourage you to just play a game of tic-tac-toe and choose to love your neighbor. So on the next slide here, pretend you live in the red house, and the person in the number 1 house is the one right across the street from you. And then the one in the 3 is the one next to you, and then the 7 is next to you, and 5's behind you. But I want to encourage you to go home and draw a tic-tac board on a piece of paper and put it on your refrigerator. And write down the names of the people who live next to you. Just to get to know their names. And who knows, the way our world is our world is designed to prevent this, right? Because you have a little button on your keychain that opens up your garage, And then you get into your garage and you press that button again and the garage closes. Then you go inside your own house and you stay within the lines, right? You're right there in that middle and you're safe and secure. But I want to encourage you to do something. I know it's really hard, but press the little button, drive in, and just get out and walk. And go say hi. And then go back in and press a button and go watch your show or whatever. But get to know people's names. I mean, to be honest, there's times when I've lived for years and I don't know the person next to me's name. And what was really cool is the fires really kind of woke me up to that. Pretty soon we were all meeting together and right in front of the house. Our whole block was like, how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Okay, evacuation, let's make sure everyone's okay. It took a fire to do that. Or maybe we can actually choose to love a little bit. But I want to encourage you to think about that. Consider just getting to know their names and then writing it. As soon as you get to know their name, hey, thanks, nice to know you. Okay, write it down on your refrigerator. It takes a little bit of work. And every time you go to get milk or eggs or whatever from the fridge, you see their names. And it just helps. And then the next time you see them working in their yard, say, hey, Jorge, Priscilla, how you doing? And that's all you got to do. But it shows a little bit of love. And that's what I'm working on. Maybe that'll help you. A second example. Next week we're starting a new teaching series. I'm really excited about it. We're entitling it Stranger Things. Okay? So, life in the midst of pain. Living in an upside-down world. How many of you feel like maybe our world feels upside down sometimes? Okay? I think we all do. And trying to live life in the middle of that when it's crazy is very difficult. And I think about that, it's like, in this upside-down world, there's not a lot of hope. There's a lot of like darkness. There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of pain, but there's not a lot of hope. And what I love about what Caitlin was sharing about the crisis, about Bridges, their whole mission, their whole hope is they want to spread hope. They want to give love to people by sharing a little bit of hope with others. And one of those things that they do, and what I think is a great idea, I thought it was so great that I asked Cindy to put in everybody's bulletin one of these cards. Okay? Hopefully you got it in your bulletin. And I want to encourage you, and ushers, Jay, if you're back there, if you could grab some extras of these. And if anybody wants one of these, but what I would encourage you to do is let's stop talking about who we are, and maybe we can actually be who we are. And instead of doing any homework, why don't we do homework in class? And why don't you write a note to someone in your life who has shown you hope, who's given you hope? And what if we just all wrote a little note to someone and say, hey, thank you for giving me hope. And what's awesome about what Bridges did is they say, hey, we'll mail it. All you got to do is address it. Maybe their address is in their phone, or if they're not, take it home, get the address, bring it back to church, we'll mail it for you. But the idea is how can we spread a little bit of hope? And so what we're going to do, we got a couple minutes here, and it only takes a little bit, is I want to encourage you to write a note to someone who's given you hope. Someone in your life that you maybe has really just encouraged you in some way. And I want to encourage you to just write that person a little thank you note. This is an example of one of my friends, Carlton, who 20 years ago, when Heather and I were first married, and then all of a sudden we started, oh, okay, Judah's coming along. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And him and his wife really helped us kind of find our way in being parents, and for me, being a husband. And he gave me hope when things were not going well. But I want to encourage you, we're going to take just the next few minutes, and if you want to, you can. You don't have to. You don't have to love. That's your choice, remember? And that didn't mean to come across guilty, but, But if you want a card, raise your hand, and the ushers will give it to you. Hopefully, but there's some in here. But I'm going to ask Israel to play a little music. We're going to take a couple minutes to just write a note. And I'm going to let you do that while I write my note, and then we'll wrap things up. Raise your hand, and we'd love to give you a little card. So if you happen to have their address, and maybe it's on your phone, you drop that off at the table to Caitlin, and she'll make sure it gets mailed. And like I said, if you don't have it, we'll drop it off later on the church. And you bring it back next Sunday, and we would be happy to mail it. But what I want to also encourage you is hopefully you wrote someone to somebody who gave you hope. As you drop off your card, I want to encourage you to pick up another one and write a note to someone in your life who you believe needs hope right now. Because every single one of us have people in our lives who need hope. They need a little bit of love. And I'm willing to, I bet you the Holy Spirit's already putting that face of a person in your life who needs encouragement, who needs a little hope in their life. And you know what's crazy is every time I've done something like this, I've wrote a little note. It's like somebody came to mind. Okay, hey, I just want to say, hey, I'm praying for you. Hope you're doing well. I love you. Love Dustin. Boom. Send it in the mail. And what's crazy is a couple weeks later, I'd get this, they'd come to me and says, you don't realize where I was at when I received that letter. I was in a dark place. Thanks for bringing a little light into my world. You can bring light into people's worlds. And all it takes is a couple minutes, right? Just write a note. Say a little encouragement. Share a little love with other people. That's what we get to do. This is our mission. Our job, we have to love people. What a bummer, right? We get to do this. I mean, this is not hard. We get to not just talk about church, not just go to church, but we get to be the church today and love others. That's my prayer for you. So God, my prayer for us as a church, for us as individuals, for this world, Lord, would we just be filled up with your love? Would we just be so overwhelmed by your love? Lord, if there's somebody in this room who just needs a hug from you, would you give that to them right now? And whether it's giving a hug like you're doing it, or maybe it's someone in this room hugging another person, it's still you doing it. It's sharing a little love. May we do that, Lord. This world needs love. This world needs hope. May we be people who, that's what we do, is we give love, we give hope. Would we just live out that legacy, the same legacy that you gave to us when you died on the cross? In Jesus' name, amen. We have communion elements right here. We'd love for you to take that. We also have our prayer team. We would love to pray for you. Next week, we're starting Stranger Things, and I hope you could make it. And consider inviting a friend who may be living in the upside down right now and who needs a little encouragement, because we're going to talk about that. But may you be someone who is spreading God's love. It's what we do. This is us.